who I particularly want to give a shout out to. First of all, Jacob. Jacob is a mover and a shaker, and I really appreciate you. And thanks so much for arranging that little
Mr. Fats. She means Mr. Fats. Oh, wait.
mental health forum that we did, and that was the first time I was able to really put together what I do for a living with our little corner in any kind of real way. So that was a very good experience. I really appreciate that. Um, and
Uh, actually, the first time was our French encounter, Sevilla, because everybody called it my therapy session. But
there's the guys in my estuary group made me realize that so many young men here are such high quality young men at Chino, and how, I wish I had met more young men like you 30 years ago. I think my youth would have been much better. And again, it's been a little while now, so I don't remember all the names.
I see that point is really important because if we want the corner to succeed, we have to start branding it to the ladies as a place to find good men's.
But there are a few names I do remember. Chad, you really have a lot to say. I'm so glad that I saw you on Karen's channel. Uh, the way you feel about faith.
Now, if you're somehow new here, you might not know who Chad is. He runs the Friday Morning Nameless channel, which is right here.
Hey there, I'm Chad the Alcoholic, and the creator of the Friday Morning Nameless channel. I'd like to welcome you to join us for the latest and greatest and most up-to-date information about all the things happening in this corner of the internet. I want to thank you for your time and your attention.
I really relate to it, and I'm going to be talking to Karen soon, so I'm going to bring that up. Graham, what can I say? The wise fool is wise, and in your case, very, very smart. And I was
Mom.
glad
I know
to
all about cannibalism. I saw it on TV.
See? It's okay. We saw it on the television.
I believe that if everyone sees what just a few people become when they wholly embrace their gifts, others will awaken.
All right. And so there was the promotion nobody could miss. Good to see you, everybody. McMo, how dare you? Stephanie, Clint, Anselman, Tile. Hi. We have a special guest, Lenny, on today. He's one of the few people I have somewhat private conversations with outside of the stream, and in those I've discovered he operates under a different calendar system, which reminds me of like, hey, other than the end date, has anybody really looked at the Mayan calendar? Because maybe we could. But he's got this other system, and we're going to talk about it today. You might, in fact, be my the flow I am massing. I'm not real sure. Let's bring him on right after one more branding. This one. All right, and if you aren't familiar with the visuals, the overall area you're in now is what I call home. It's got the Broken Clock Tower Discord, the Clock Tower Tavern, and the Lobster Monkey Lighthouse. Joining me now in the Clock Tower Tavern, Dr. Lenny Time.
Greetings, Griz.
Greetings. Let me change the Zoom for people. Hey, there we go. Now we'll do it this way. Welcome.
Great. Saving throws?
Yes, we are going to do that. But first, we're going into a weird system for which you've recently informed me you have a deck of cards. And lately we've been doing a card thing on the show. So I'm going to do our card thing, and why don't you use your mysterious cards to pull one for the show, and then we'll explain it. They'll understand. Then they'll be curious to stay to the end and see what the heck your system's all about. Maybe. For our standard deck, we have a 6 of spades today for today's show.
Well, rather than pulling a card, since we have already discussed that this is flow massing, I have
Oh,
the
you
flow
found
massing
it.
card. So
That's
it's
the
a
flow
matter
massing
of,
card you said?
yes. Flow is the blue. I don't know what the shape is. I guess it's an octahedral. And the black is the massing. It's a disc. And on the calendar, these are 2 of the 8 different concepts. But we're jumping the gun. But
Right, we just have the
well thought
mystery
out.
now. We've
Yes.
given them the mystery hook, and I am not a shapeologist, but I would call that a mirror cone with that blue. What's this
This
one?
one is love sounding.
We get a lot of that in the Hive Mind chat. It says we have 11 of them already, but a lot of those folks are here for this. Hey, we'll get into that. Put them away, Lenny. We're doing the savings throws now. You are one of the few people that I think understands what the savings throws are. Would you stop it? God,
That's not a real card. That just explains what mass is.
we're not explaining what mass is. Damn it, Lenny. We're doing the savings throws. Explain
Okay.
those to people.
If you are here in the stream and playing along, you get to choose between socialist, survivalist, wisdomist, or lover. And each one of those has a different separate die. And they are dies that are 20-sided. If you roll a 1, you wipe out and you get hit by all the bullshit. If you roll a 20, you've done very good. And maybe on some streams, you'll survive all the bullshit immune. But anywhere else, you need to come in over 10 because otherwise you might be subject to the bullshit. But there's always additions to the saving throws.
There's why am I not there? This button. There's bonuses you get like just for saying things in the Hive Mind chat. Hey, magic. So choose now whether you're going to be a survivalist, a socialist, a wisdomist, or a lover. And if it's over 10, you take half damage. Ready, set, roll. 18 for the survivalists. Nat 20 again for the socialists. For the lovers of wisdom. 10, you made it. Hard folks, you'd need the bonuses, but they do not apply. Nat 1 today. But we want what's best for you. Indigo kids, you got 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9.
Number 9.
Yes, the number 9. Okay, so that's as saved is going to be. I need an orientating branding, and then we'll get into this fancy pants system, which we have not even revealed the name of yet. But all of this is made possible by the shadow cabal of production executives. And today you're going to have to get in the description to find the links because I put Lenny's channel in the pinned chat. And here's the orientating branding. All right, Lenny, here we are. Here we are. There's a weird system in which it's, for me, flow massing. For you, it's something else.
It is
And
voiding for me.
yes, you're voiding your void all into my flow massing. How does that work? Wait, where should we start where we're trying to make people make sense of what the heck we're talking about?
Okay, let's start with an 8x8 grid, also known as a checkerboard.
Ooh, I could possibly bring one of those up. Let me fiddle. Keep talking.
The idea of the checkerboard is that we have permutations of 8 taken 2 at a time.
Permutations, you say? What's that in dumb person words?
You take 2 of the symbols at a time, and there's 8 symbols to start off.
So what we end up with is a unique symbol on each of the 64 pieces on an 8x8 square.
Yes. And the first one in the top left-hand corner is your massing. And the last one in the bottom right-hand corner is your voiding. And every other day is somewhere between those two extremes. And from your voiding, you start the next grid's massing.
Okay. First, I'm going to dig out some paint so we can draw things on the screen. Let's
Okay, let me talk about the 8 concepts.
All right. Go.
Okay. The 8 concepts always come in the same order. You start with mass. Mass leads to form. Form leads to flow. Flow leads to power. Power leads to love. Love leads to sound. Sound leads to mind. Mind leads to void. And then void goes to the, once you void, you go to the next concept, which after we're done with mass voiding, we would go to form massing. Okay, let's back up another step. You are muted. Am I muted too? Are we all muted?
I sometimes do that so people can put the ear emoji in the hive mind and get the bonus +4.
I see.
All right. But what I've done now, let's see if this works. Maybe this one. All right, is I have brought up this fancy pants thing. Now you have a deck of cards with symbols for each of the hootenannies. That's correct?
Yes, I do.
So let's get some of those out. Let's see. I'll start with the pencil. We're gonna have an 8x8 grid. It's gonna be something like this, and then a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5. Oh God, I didn't know it up. And a 6, 7. Did you know if you make a box and then draw 7 lines, it has 8, right?
Yes.
It has 8. All right. Now, what's the first symbol that goes up over in this corner over here?
It is mass.
Here, let me show you real quick.
The mass symbol looks like that.
Wow, that's is it mainly the circle with the diddly on it?
Yes, it is only the circle with the diddly on it.
All right, so the circle with the diddly.
Yeah, the diddly has to do with the orientation, which is beyond the scope of this audience at the current moment.
Perfect.
We're just going to get the concepts down.
All right, I'm just going to do it. That's what it means on our little grid there. Now, what's the bottom one over here?
That's the diddly there. You're talking about the black circle in the middle of the card.
Oh, the black circle is the mass. All right, we got those in here. What? Oh, I said Phil. Oh, you got to make the solid color like that. All right, there. That'll be our mass one.
The next one is flow. And the symbol for flow is this blue octahedral. Well, it's not really an octahedral. I'm not sure what it is. It's got a disc in the middle, and it's probably got a disc up and down. It might be a tetrahedral, but from this orientation, it doesn't quite look that way.
Yeah, that's the mirror cone in my head. The mirror cone.
Okay, draw it as a blue box.
Oh, I need more blue. Paint is very fun to work with, everyone, just so you know. And then we can put like the triangle on it.
Yeah.
And then
okay.
the triangle on it. Does that? Oh, but I
Upside
can't
down,
these
inverted
triangles.
triangle.
I can't do these. That doesn't work.
You
Stupid
need
paint.
to go to a different triangle form.
There. I draw it myself.
That works.
All right. From mass to flow to card number 3.
Form.
Form. Hemispheric form, as far as I can call it.
Okay. And
Let's
it's
see if
in
we
green.
can draw one of those. Hey, both green. And then we make another circle. And then we draw a little bump. Hey, form, baby. From mass to flow to form. All right,
maybe
one more.
turn
We can
that
take
one
a break.
upside down.
Yeah, well, form's weird like that.
Yeah, but the form once something takes form. Actually, that wasn't form. This one's form. This green one is flow.
What have you done to me, sir?
I have confused everybody because form and flow are right together. And we went from form to flow, and I was still using the word form.
Now here's a technical skill check for me. Maybe we can do this. Hey.
No. They were in the right order.
I thought it was void, flow, form.
No, void, form, flow.
All right, but form is this blue one now.
Yes.
All right. One more. We still gotta go one more, Lenny. Then we can take a break and catch up on the hive mind.
Power.
Oh, we're gonna need some. We're gonna need some. That's definitely a cone of power if I've ever seen one, and it's a red thingy.
Yep, and it's inverted from the form. It doesn't matter if it's inverted or not. Just a red cone.
All right, so now we have, let's go over this one more time. You can see what I'm pointing at, right? We have void.
No, that's not mass.
Void. Mass, that's right. Mass, and then
form,
and then
flow,
and then
power.
And then a commercial. Dun. Remember it.
We want.
The audience is getting it, and we're muted.
I am not anymore. I fixed it. So now we start with the mass, which flows into a form, and then
forms into a flow.
Forms into a flow, and then we have power.
Generates power, and then after power, you have to mitigate your power. So your next one is love.
The mitigation of power, and that is love. And I think I can do it. Oh, yeah, that one. That's why you said that one was upside down, huh?
Yes.
We'll fix this one first. And which am I fixing? This is flow I'm fixing. Flow is this. Oh yeah. Oh, and
And
then
you could also put the red color in to solidify the power.
I would like to
Although maybe
solidify
we
my
don't want
power.
it to solidify.
Except I don't think I drew it. Come here. Oh no, I've turned the paint. Here, watch. I didn't do any of that. I didn't. Oh yeah. You see, it's and then you still the only way to get back is to relax, right? But it's so hard to relax once you're like flustered.
No, there's a zen to it. All you have to do is do Fibonacci breathing.
Oh,
3 in, 2 out. 3 in, 2 out. And then take 5 in and 3 out, and then you're going better. That looks good.
it does kind of help. It does kind of help. Now, let's bring in the bowl of love. The bowl of love that's tipped over and pouring down all over us or something. And we have only three more to understand at least the forces, right, that are at play. Do we
Yes.
solidify our love as well?
Yep.
All
And
right.
you can go back and solidify your flow too,
Oh yes,
in the lower half of your form.
oh. But now is the top supposed to be open? Is that all askew?
It doesn't need to be, no, but that's just an artist's rendition, and
Here.
the artist may choose his own rendition at any time.
All right, now let's walk through them one more time before we add the next.
Mass, form, flow, power, love,
All right, and what's next up on the hit parade, Doc Time?
sound.
Oh, being of sound, love, and power, I will make a sphere with the thing in it. Here we go. I like that it's orange because that's that's the dye we don't have. All right, so we'll just do the orange one and then an orange one to make it here. Apparently, our grid is too small, also, and then we'll make we'll put just a golden halo. Oh, stop it! And then we'll put a golden halo like that to do
Okay.
that. All right, let's march through them one more. I think marching through them each time is the way to go. This let me try it. Mass forms into flow, which turns into power, which is mitigated by love, which is what's this one?
Sound.
And that makes us sound. All right, now number 7 of the 8 forces. Oh, that's indigo looking to me, Lenny.
Yep, and it's mind.
The indigo mind. Perfect. I can get behind
Unless
your
it's
system
purple.
now. We'll do this here and this one here. That we can do. It's this way, so I can do this and then put one of these fancy circles on it. Hey, close enough.
Yeah, that'll work.
I want to fill it in the power though. Like,
Yep.
let's do that. Boom. All right. And now, all right. One more. You walk us through this time.
This one's gonna blow your mind.
We got to go back through first. We got to march through all 7 again.
Mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind,
And
void.
ooh.
Yeah, it's going to be hard because it's white on white, so maybe just leave it blank and know it's there. Or maybe put
That
the shadow
does seem
there
to
and
work.
let the shadow cabal take it. Something
Leave
in
it
a white
blank and
space.
we just know it's there sounds so so void appropriate. Really. I don't. Maybe a big spray. There. That kind of represents it. And now let's run through some more branding or something, and then we'll move on to how these 8 forces play together on the grid.
Not quite yet. There's one
Oh,
more
wait.
step in it.
All right, what's the next step?
Take that horizontal row and also put it vertical.
Oh yeah. We have to run it down the other side of the
The near
of
side.
the grid. Is it in the same order though?
Yes.
Where it goes from mass to form to flow to
Yep.
power to
And you're going to
love,
run it down that
sound
left side.
to mind to void. So, all right, I will run that down while we run some things. It was going so well. I was almost proud of myself for doing it within the while the thing ran. But then it turns out, I didn't have enough room for the void, so it happened that way.
It's always something.
All right. So before we get into how these flow into the grid, you said the system has a name. Does it have a name and a history? Can we divert to that portion of the show?
Yes. It is called Tree-I, Treei. And it was founded in Haight-Ashbury in the late 1960s by a gentleman named Armando Busick, who
After a trip on
mescaline or peyote or something, but I guarantee you it was good. Just go back and read The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe.
The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe. Right?
Yes, if you haven't read that before, you'll be very entertained.
Okay, so deep in the dark heart of Haight-Ashbury, some gentleman named what again?
Armando Busick, Busick, who had another life designing record albums and book covers, was deep thinking on this system, and it's a language system and musical notes, and we adapted it into a calendar, and there's all sorts of things that go with Tree-I, but it got into a copyright dispute and got squirreled away and taken off the internet, and all sorts of things, also known as band.
I've heard of this.
Shadow band. I'm just
thing.
a singer in a shadow band.
In the shadow. Wow. I might need the link to that tune, sir.
Yeah, try and find me on YouTube before the most recent YouTubes, and they're all shadow band. You can find them if you dig deep enough, but
or maybe not. The implementations the AI is allowing in knowledge compartmentalizing are quite impressive. We do have a link to your existing channel at the top of the Hive Mind chat, however.
Okay, there is one discussion there on nuclear chemistry, and recently in my own Discord server, I found a discussion on chemtrails that I talked about, and
We don't. um. We don't say
you're
that
not
word.
allowed to say that word. Oh,
No,
I'm
no.
sorry. False clouds.
False clouds. Yeah, those are interesting. Okay, so this system from the heart of Haight Ashbury, you've adapted into a calendar. Why and how is it useful to you to have done so? What are the
I
products
think
of this
that one of the
output?
major controls that they have on us as individual, unique human members of the hive mind is that they put us on this ridiculously complicated calendar that makes no sense. So
Now
we
what?
can,
Now you claim this calendar makes no sense. I will back it up as far as to say that the sept in September means 7, and for
right,
some reason it's 9.
right. And the oct in October similar with eighth month meaning 10.
So you think by screwing with making a calendar make no sense and putting the people on it is an injustice that has been done to us?
Oh, yes, yes. The week consists of 7 days, and you work five and take off two. Then you work five more, then take off two more. Then you work four and get a 3 day weekend just to screw you up, and then go and do two more 5 twos. But in a group of seven, 5 2 is like the worst pattern to get on. You're much better with 4 3, 3 4, and alternating. But you
It's
see, they
true.
want to screw with all of us so that we can't be stable. On this calendar that you have so aptly drawn out in your creative design, you've got 64 squares, and each square has a translation that means something. So when you work on this calendar, one row across is called a strong, and it has 8 days because it's much better than a 7 day week.
Now to put yourself on this calendar, you must know the day you were born. Is that correct?
Yes. And if you take your date of birth, your DOB, and go to a website called timeanddate.com, you can calculate how many days you have been alive, including today.
And so when you're putting yourself on the calendar based on that date, your birth date is a mass massing?
Yes, your birth date is your very first mass massing. When I
And
had
then
you divide that number of days by 64,
it lets
I
you know
was
when to start over on the chart.
yes, but I was looking at the remainder
Mm.
because that remainder told me exactly where you were on the chart. If your remainder is 0.000, that's the 64th day you're on voiding. And
All
so
right.
each one increments like by 0.017 or something like that.
Mm.
And so anyway, by dividing the number of days you are alive by 64 and looking at the remainder, you can take 1 divided by 64, and the first box mass massing is 1/64th. The second box mass forming is 2/64ths or 1/32nd.
All
The
right, let's
third,
stop there and talk about the interplays of these energies. Uh,
okay, the
what does it mean
interplays.
if like since today is my flow massing day? What does that mean as opposed to a mass flowing day and et cetera,
Okay,
et cetera?
I have done a lot of thought on each of the different concepts.
The eight forces, we'll call them.
Yeah. And the first one, mass, is getting your shit together. It's like taking an inventory. You got to know what the mass is you're dealing with. Then, after the mass gets assembled, you get to form it. So you go through form massing, form forming, form flowing, form powering, form loving, form sounding, form minding, and form voiding.
Voiding sounds like the emptying out thereof. Is that an
It
accurate?
is. It's getting rid of everything that you thought about in that concept, putting it on the shelf so you can go to the next concept to mass.
Okay, so this flow I have. Let's talk deeply about flow. Your meditations thereof.
Flow massing is
No, just flow itself first.
Okay. To me, I think of flow. I think of flow charts. I think of an order and sequence of things as they flow downhill that allow me to just get a rhythm started up.
Okay, so that my flow would be massing, would be, how do I spin that then?
This is the first day of your flow. So you've already got your strong of 8 mass done, and you've got your strong of 8 form done. So all your mass is formed, and you've got mass and form on the shelf. This is the massing day of flow. You figure out what you want to accomplish in the 8 days strong that has to do with taking whatever it was you massed and formed and getting it flowing. After it flows, it gets into its power, and you can use it as it's flowing in motion and you're powered. And so at that point, after you're powered, you better apply the love, because otherwise the power will go all hoo-diggy and it'll get out of control.
I can't think that far ahead anymore, Doc. I can focus on my flow, and I can do it for 8 days, but
right. Then when your flow voids at the end of the 8 days of flow, your power masses.
That sounds exciting, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Okay, that'll be 9 days from today, or the 9th day if you include today.
All right, well, mark your calendars. That'll be a stream to remember, I'm sure.
But this is only for you. This is personalized to you on your date of birth.
That's true. That's true.
And everyone else is going to land somewhere else on the calendar. And if people want to send me DMs with their birth date, I'll locate them on the calendar for them.
That sounds like somebody putting a list together, Doc. That sounds an awful lot like putting a list together.
You see, that's one of those pieces of information you're not supposed to divulge. So every company that ever calls you about anything asks you that as the third question after what's your name and where do you live.
How much of your privacy are you willing to share with us? I think we're casting magic missiles over here, Doc. Let's run that.
The list? Oh, yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Graham, I'm not in the room, right?
What room? I want to cast magic missile.
A room where he's casting all these spells from.
He hasn't cast anything yet. I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting magic missile. Why are you casting magic missile? There's nothing to attack here. I'm attacking the darkness.
Now, I want to address some things that have happened in the chat real quick. First of all, I don't know. Anybody in the chat asks, where is the Ko-fi coffee link? And it happened to be Matsy, who has agreed to purchase one for everybody who bought a book after his appearance on the stream the other day. And that I didn't see anybody in the hive mind supply the link to him means, no, you're not in the room right now, Lenny. They can hear you, though. No, they can't. I'll get back. I'll bring you back in a second to go mass your master. Void your flow if you need to, pal. We got some hard questions from Clint when you get back. But anybody who had put the Ko-fi link would have earned moderator status, because I'm trying to run a ship here. I can't do it all myself. Yada, yada, yada. But remember it.
Griz, we want
The type of guy who hasn't yet loaded up the thumbnail for the show? Well, don't worry. You can show the Choose Denim thumbnail whenever you like. Whenever you like. Oh, look, we have one from Lance. No, it doesn't just magically appear when you say, oh, look, you have to upload it. Oh, look, we have a new one from Lance in the VNA logo section of the Discord. That's adorable. And finally, I have found today's thumbnail and can tell you that we're now doing the Tea Time stream with Flo Massing, special guest star Doc Time, who I am now returning to the stream. Welcome back, Doc. We got some hard questions, but would you like to do any
I'm up for
recapping
hard questions.
before
Let's
we go to
give
the
a
hard
good
questions?
afternoon to Chessie out there.
Has he? I didn't even see. Oh, there he is. Good afternoon. So let's recap what we've gone over. There's a flow system. No, I'm massing. There's a system involving 8 primal forces that have originated from the heart of Haight-Ashbury and that gentleman
Armando Busick, Busick.
And you've applied it to, or the group of you had applied it to a calendar, which we've now explained to the people here. And the hard question is, how is this not astrology by date rate, whatever date rate means?
Well, it's not astrology because it doesn't depend on the zodiac or the stars. If that is considered base 12, this would be considered base 8. It's a mathematics, but the key thing to it is it's an ordered, structured flow that flow masses in such a way that you know where you are. You can ramp up to power and love and then ramp down to sound, mind, and void. And to me, once I get my power going and I apply love, that means laughing off all the things that didn't work and taking note of the things that did work. Then I want to go talk about it with other people, sit down and write it in my journal and get it off my mind so I can take 8 days off and have my void cycle, in which today is my voiding. So that means that tomorrow my mass is massing, and for my grid, I'll be starting another grid. I try, and if I work on a personal level for 64 days, work on a bigger group scale the next 64 days. And if I've been working on a bigger group scale for 64 days, I put my grid on a personal focus. So, for instance, in this last grid that's ending today, my goal was to finish the second book of the Baroque cycle, which is fiction about Isaac Newton and William Leibniz and what happened in 1700 that caused the big divide between science and the church, because scientism is another form of church. And this is an ecumenical society here, is it not?
I don't know. That's a big, scary word. I don't understand.
But
you're closing out that cycle and moving on to the next one. Is it going to be a larger one?
Yes, by virtue of the fact that I was working on a personal cycle. This next cycle is what I'm calling a pre-LARP, because it is my intention of starting a new LARP at the fall equinox, but I want to have a cast of characters who already knows how to play within the LARP and has some familiarity with each other so that when troops go out in the LARP, you're not learning each other for the very first time.
Well, I think I might be able to spin it as an adventure module for some of the lobster monkeys, but we'll have to see about that. That did remind me though. I wanted to highlight this thing, this masterwork. This you can't do it when you're sharing paint. This particular image, in case anyone has missed it, has been provided to me by Upcycle after the prompting of Chad the Alcoholic's Substack post. And it's turning into my own Substack post. So look, I'm writing again, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for that. There should be links in the thing. It's very fancy. I don't know how much this looks like me. He's got a better beard, that's for sure. But it is my only submission for the trading card thus far. And as a member of the fraternal regiment embodying narcissistic sociopathy, if you would like to have been the person who have designed the card, just remember, it needs to be slightly more flattering than this one. This is the tea time stream with Doc. It was just sat back down. Oh, wrong button. It was just sat back down. I'm clicking too much.
You got clickbait.
I am clickbait. Remember, everybody, make America honest again. Choose denim. All right, Doc. I'm about spun out. What do we got left? You want to recap?
We want to go through the last 4 concepts.
Okay.
Love, sound, mind, and void. And the love, well, your audience knows about love. We can jump over that easier. Sound is one of those things where we are sounding by being on YouTube, but it's also about talking with other people in the hive and developing what's going on and sort of making sense of what you were trying to accomplish for the 64-day grid from the beginning, so that during mind you can get it all together, put it in a nice little package, and pick it up later on a future grid and know where you were when you stopped and trying to make baby steps to accomplishing things. Now, my game of existence started with me alone as a hermit existing in 2001. And I won the game in 2016 and mastered my group of 1, which is followed by a group of 1. So depending
only because you're a Fibonacciist.
Yes, I'm a Fibonacciist. How about that? That's part of the scientism that was erased.
Wait a minute.
Is it alchemy?
Is it not Fibonacciist? Is it Fibonacci?
I don't think so. But if you want an Antakarana to post, it certainly looks like some sort of Nazi symbol.
An Antakarana. That's a big fancy word. I do want to address some certain criticisms.
Okay.
Like they're pitching it as astrology, your system, and I want to say no, because astrology means stars, and we haven't even mentioned the stars, really, guys. Come on, what are you even talking about? And in I don't know, atheistic defense of the system, the fact that there are 8 different forces we ne'er ever consider, and a calendar and or a system that causes us to consider these primal forces and factors in our life can only benefit and make our minds more sound as we exist in this void, searching out love. So yes. There, guys.
In fact, I have written many essays over 20 years, 25 years almost, that concern each of these principles. And I've never published them except they're in my journals. And a couple of them occasionally went on to Steam It or now I publish on Minds, so sometimes they get out to Minds. But pretty much, if you're going in order from mass to form and flow, by the time you're into flow, if it's not working, you crash the LARP and you start again at the beginning of the next grid. And you don't worry about using power and love and sound on things that really didn't work at the beginning. But if you're crashing your game before you've even got your mass voiding, you're running out. And this is just a personal calendar to get you off the 52525243 52525243 normie calendar that has 364 days, except when it has 365 days because they can't fit it to a clock.
You know, I remember from my early DM days when I was trying to devise the campaign world. I took a good look at the calendar we were using, and I was like, why don't we have 13 months with like 3-day celebration on winter solstice? Why is that? What? And it's just as you find your way in this confusing world, you learn that sometimes things are made to not make sense on purpose. On purpose. Good morning, Greg. Good to see you. Good to see you. Will your employer understand? No, because if you're part of a system where you're no,
you wouldn't even bring it to your employer. And no, it's not a Jewish calendar. Armando was actually Indian by descent, Mexican Indian. But the Tzolk'in, which is one of those calendars that's part of the Mayan calendar, is a 1320 calendar. So you have there things like yellow cosmic star, where cosmic means 13, star is the 8th different one. And so this sort of calendar has precedent in the same way the Mayans did their sort of calendar. It's just that a 64-day grid can be treated as 5 grids per year. And here, if you orient yourself to each grid and have a purpose for the 64 days, that's a little over 2 months. You can hold it together that long.
If you can hold it together for a little over 2 months, the system might work for you. I do want to contrast against the astrology claims again, because the astrology system, as it's popularly understood, is that like these forces are at play. The forces of the planets are at play in our lives, and the difference with this calendar system that I'm seeing that you're using is that it's not external forces from the planets, but forces within ourselves we can match our rhythm to.
Yes, and in fact, it's
or train our rhythm to,
as opposed to forces, and you can apply them on your own at human scale from a group of one, or you can apply them at a human scale universally, at all humans can do this. And if we get to the point where humans from each one of us all can be off their control calendar and on something like this, we know that the next time you come around to form massing, I'll be on voiding. And on any given day, I'm about 2 concepts behind you. But when we get 20 people from the hive mind, we'll have people all over the grid. We might even have people who share the same designation. And I
do have a lot of birthday twins out there. I will. Well, no, it'll be different because of the year. Never mind.
You never, until you do the math, you don't know where the 64 remainder is going to be. But that remainder, when you divide by 64, is going to plant you on this calendar on your own day.
Well, that's Stephanie's making a good point. She says, I think it's the birth date that evokes the astronomy comparisons. And that's true. Like, um, that's the leap of faith when mapping it to the date of your birth is
I
that's
suppose we could go and map it to the date of conception, but there's
that's
a
a,
lot
that's a much
more
harder
error
date
in
to pin
that.
down. That's a much harder date to pin down. But theoretically, you could map it to, you could just start at any
Yes.
day, right?
And in fact, whenever I start a new LARP, I start it with a mass massing. So on my new LARP, it is mass forming because I have 91 days to complete the 64-day grid. I run the LARPs from solstice to equinox or equinox to solstice.
What do you do with how? What you got? You're working in 30 extra days into a 64 grid now. You're
Right, I'm giving myself 30 days off.
oh. So
Call them weekends, call them whatever. But if I don't put any effort into this LARP, that day doesn't count as its own day.
Okay.
And some
Well,
days I don't. Other days I put a lot of time into it. And on days that I consider key days, like sounding, I will almost always try and produce some sort of show for a sounding. And if I have like a mind voiding is a day where I want to make sure that everything that I had set forth in the grid is tied up so that I can take my entire void time and relax. But I know if I can't get it all done, I still have 8 days to deal with it and get it done. So for me, it makes a much more workable pattern. And I had to go through 8 or 9 grids before I had internalized it to the point where now I don't even have to think about it. And so I can tell you that I'm voiding and will know that that means tomorrow I have massing. And I just started a LARP 5 days ago. It's still in the early massing stage. So I'll slow the LARP down to allow my personal self to correlate with the LARP and then run it on a daily basis until it runs out, and then have 2 or 3 weeks to kick in September area that will allow me to take what I've learned from the pre-LARP and apply it to the LARP that really goes. And I'm thinking about things like, do I need my own website or can I run this through Discord? I already ran 2 years of radio shows through Discord. I don't think I can run this through Discord. I can have members who are Discord servers. And so we can say that everybody who uses the broken clock tower may be selected by themselves into the LARP if they want to play. But
well,
anybody
that would
who doesn't want to play,
selected by themselves. That sounds like an overcomplicated way of saying is like, well, it'll be a portal to play,
Yeah.
a gate. Let's break it down back to the real simple levels for everybody. You're getting very specific into your own projects right now, and
Okay.
I'm getting lost. The crux of the matter is to recognize that you're on somebody else's calendar, and it's convenient because they've gotten most people on that. But as far as your internal world and your life, you can use a different system. I did have a valid question, and I think it'll highlight to serve to anybody who would like to reject you as insane. A great opportunity to do so. Please explain to us who they are to you.
They to me is the world of the Shadow Cabal, those people who are part of the LARP known as the Khazaranian Cabal and manage to obfuscate everything that's done in the world so that instead of dealing with a fraud who kept a laptop, oh, look there, a submarine just sank. And everybody's attention is now back in the Titanic. Whereas we've got criminals running the system, and as long as we buy into the system, they control us.
Ah, so the wizards that know better and don't care enough, who don't want what's best for you.
And this was basically a one-person game. I was at the point where I had finished a job that paid me real good money, and the company closed shop and moved up to Canada. And
Blame Canada.
then they hired me for a 2-year contract at the same salary to help them move, where I had no responsibility to do actual work other than to coordinate to make sure the laboratory was packed nicely in boxes and all the T's and the I's got dotted and crossed. So as the company went from 360 employees down to 80, down to 30, down to 20, and then started letting go of people, I was the fifth from the last person they actually let go. And so I had a lot of time on my hands. I had friends in academia who were suffering because they had to jump through hoops for their administrators and they couldn't teach their course like they wanted to teach it. I taught freshman chemistry. There is not a whole lot of ways you can teach freshman chemistry. And so I had money coming in from my teaching position. I had money coming in from a job with very little responsibility. And so I took a non-paying job at the local zoo developing math and science programs for kids. So we taught them water quality monitoring, and we taught them some basic forestry, and we taught them aquatic entomology. And what we end up doing was we taught the kids protocols that they could go out in the summer and work for the federal agencies when they were in high school.
Whoa. You've gone too far, sir.
Well, you see, that was back in 2000, back when we still all believed in the government and that they wanted what was best for us.
Well,
Here's
since we're involved in the PAP and I need more coffee, Lenny, what I'm going to do now is run a few minutes of your plain talk on radiation and nuclear chemistry video while I work on my biochemical needs.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Apparently,
in the explosions that took place near Tokyo this week, you saw several different explosions that scattered these radionuclides into the air. Some, like iodine, are easily handled. Others, like cesium and strontium, are not so easily handled. But this is what they are about. So let's first talk about what a radionuclide is. It's an atom of a molecule that is going to emit a particle, either an alpha, a beta, or a gamma ray. And I'll talk about what those particles are in a few moments. Each radioactive particle is a different element, and each element has a different half-life. A half-life is how long it takes for half the molecules of that particular element to disappear and morph themselves into other elements. So, for instance, if we have 100 atoms of strontium-90 and it has a half-life of 28 years, then 28 years from now, we'll have roughly 50 atoms of strontium-90 left. The other 50 atoms of strontium-90 have decayed to other elements, and each element has different isotopes. The isotopes are different proton, neutron, and electron configurations. And when they're not stable, they also emit radioactivity and other particles, and eventually they get to a point where they are stable.
As far as my isotopic nature goes, I hope that that's true. I hope that that's true. Welcome back, Doc. I have coffee now. We can continue.
Okay.
Apparently, Anselman's triggering people into hive mind.
Well, that's good. I like Anselman. He's a good triggerer.
He likes to play around. He's one of the good characters.
Yeah, he pointed out that it's spelled nuclear, and we've got. I pointed out that turmeric now has an R, whereas all the time when I was growing up, it was turmeric, and there was no R there in that word. But now,
What are they putting in the actual turmeric?
I don't know. Maybe sawdust?
More than likely. More than likely.
So anyway, it becomes difficult to understand that we're on multiple streams of timelines with the same narrative but different micro actions, and that there's multiple renditions of us. Wait until you run into yourself as a doppelganger.
I already.
You have? You've run into Griz before?
No. I was supposed to be a twin, and the other one didn't make it. So
No, that's not what I mean. You've been spotted in a town you've never been to, and so you go to that town and you look, and lo and behold, there's somebody who looks exactly like you, living their own life, who's never heard of you.
Well, maybe he'll meditate with me, and our powers combine.
Well, I've had my signature on documents that I've never seen. And I'm sure my doppelganger was signing my name to documents in order so that my ex could put things in front of the court without informing me as to what's going on, so that I looked like the fool.
Well, it's easier for me to think somebody was forging stuff than your wife was boning your doppelganger. That's just the way my brain works.
You don't know my wife. May she rest in peace. Anyway.
Wait a minute. That's probably not a nice thing to say.
I did not, and my character did not. But I had a character in a D&D role play that was named Death to Chairs. And Death to Chairs, instead of hitting other people, would pick up a chair and smash it to get his frustrations out. Death to Chairs made a live appearance sometime in 2006. And after I had smashed 2 chairs, it told me it was time to leave and do something else.
That's the danger of sub-personas.
It is.
Sometimes they take the wheel.
The world works is that sometimes you get way out there and you can't get back.
Speaking of which, I have a hard question for you from Matt Krotz. Okay. What does Doc think about Dan Winter's negentropic fields, golden ratio fractal, etc., etc.?
Doc has a specific philosophy that when he finds somebody who is working in the same field as he is in ways that Dan Winter does, he totally ignores all their work entirely, because otherwise you get mind creep, and I don't want his ideas polluting my ideas until my ideas have worked past where his ideas were, so that I could engage him on the topic. He's not the only person who I do that with, but most of the time it's biologists that I have a problem with, because I have theories of biochemistry that don't follow biology nor biochemistry, but are technically chemically correct.
That sounds a lot like one of my particular preferences. People have always been like, you should read so and so, like Plato or whatever. And it's far more pleasurable to me to like just come up with my own nonsense and then have some smarty pants who has read it say that, hey, that sounds like that what Smart Man said.
Luke Thompson is
This
totally
fella.
correct right now. Yes, where he mentions Rupert Sheldrake and Fields. And the book on Fields was written by Lynn McTaggart, but Jerry
Oh,
Pollack also is in that realm. And the idea is that a lot of these people who are at the forefront of science are working from a model that they were taught that is an incorrect model. And so no matter what they get to, they can't get their morphic fields in resonance. But Sheldrake's morphic field resonance theory is correct as far as I can tell. And that once somebody does something, it makes it easier for any other human to do that same thing.
now,
And
now,
so,
now that as far as I know, the best evidence for that theory it comes in the crystallization process. Is that something you've worked with, and have you seen the getting easier happen over time that way?
yes. In fact, in my graduate work, I had to grow crystals. And so I was one of those people who knew a lot of different ways of inducing crystal growth. And so I would grow a crystal and then have to measure its geometry, whether it was a tetrahedral or square planar or what.
How did you measure the
And then
geometry of a crystal? That sounds like a fascinating process itself.
you use spectroscopy and
And that
you,
spectroscopy is you like shoot it with lasers?
with lasers or with lights in other different areas, you can scan a region of the spectrum and the chemical bonds will absorb at certain wavelengths or wave numbers. And what happens is that each of the atoms that go into the making of the bond contributes an orbital that gets hybridized or altered.
Oh, that's such a beautiful phrase. Contributes an orbital that gets hybridized.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it means, but I like the sound of it.
Anybody who took organic chemistry can tell you how long it took for them to figure out that an sp3 orbital for carbon was a combination of 3p orbitals and an s orbital, but they make 4 lobes, and the 4 lobes are identical.
The identical lobes of the SPO orbital.
Yeah, once you get deep into chemistry, it's a lot of mathematics. But my premise is that group theory from chemistry is a lot like group theory in sociology. And so the mathematics should hold in each one. And so I take the chemistry area called group theory and use the mathematics applied to small groups. Now, I'm not so sure the broken clock tower is a small group anymore. It might be considered a medium group because what do you got? 150, 200 people?
Oh, I got like half a dozen I got two, maybe a dozen active players. But there's a lot of people who float around and come in and out and check in from time to time. I don't belittle them for that at all. That's how I do most Discord.
Oh, I was just talking, how many members do you have in your Discord server?
Yeah, that's potential reach. But I mean, active players is the level I look at.
Yeah, those are fractals of each other or different senses of order.
No. Let me switch back to the crystallization process.
Order and chaos
fields, man,
don't mean what most people think. Okay, back to the crystallization process.
You were doing spectroscopy to get the geometry of the crystals you were growing.
Right.
And they somehow confirm for you the morphic fields theory that it'll get easier and easier the more often it's done.
I found that in growing crystals, once I was able to induce crystallization of a compound, that every time I had that same compound that I needed to recrystallize, it was easier to do.
And easier manifests how in this circumstance? Faster?
It
grew
sometimes
or
faster, sometimes less work. I mean, if you have to layer one solvent on top of another solvent without disturbing the interface so that that interface is where the crystals will grow, the first time you do it, it's real hard to develop an even surface. But after you've done it 2 or 3 times, your ability to use the pipette to lay out the upper solvent becomes easier so that your crystals grow easier. And by the time you've done this process of growing crystals 8 to 10 times, you become old hack at it. But until you've done it 34 times by Fibonacci, you're always got a chance that something different is going to happen, because the realm of possibility goes up in Fibonacci numbers. And so 1 out of 4, well, there is no 4 in Fibonacci. It's got to be 1 out of 5, 20%.
Well,
One out
I
of eight,
got to take
12%.
that as once you do it 34 times, you don't have to roll savings throws to do it anymore.
Yes. Very well said.
Now that was the way you describe that process, one would easily write off to the humans getting better at doing it. And I won't rule that out as like part of the morphogenetic field, is that like the crystallization of your crystallization process, crystallizing in your own biomechanical motor neuron pathways. But the theoretical nature of the morphogenetic fields would be such that like it getting easier for you would also make it easier for Paul down the street to crystallize the same substance, correct?
100 monkeys.
100 monkeys. Yeah, so that's part of the morphogenetic field theory, is that not only do
Absolutely.
you get better at it, but it gets easier for everybody.
Yes. Once the atoms in the molecule of the crystal know where they're supposed to be, they can follow that pattern again.
Now, is this at all related to your group theory mapping over to the social realm?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Fractals are never identical. They rhyme.
So
And they're not in a pattern either. If you look at the Mandelbrot set, you can see the same pattern coming up, but it's not in a fixed amount of distance from each other time that pattern has come up.
I want to think about this morphogenetic field thing, and I want to
Okay.
think about it
I'm
as it
gonna
applies to human behavior.
I'm gonna see if I can find another. Yeah, I found it. In your Discord, I am dropping some pictures that you can use here to put up so that when we say certain words, people understand what we're doing. Like I talked about the Mandelbrot set, so I have a picture of a fractal from the Mandelbrot set. And then I sent you the Antakarana there. And there's one more that I want to give
I
you.
don't know if I'm running the Antakarana on YouTube, man. Come on now.
Oh, that could be a problem. It's not 4
There's the
though. It's only
Mandelbrot for you,
3.
though.
There. Now I can come
But
back.
wait. I just want to pose a theory. If the morphogenetic thing is true and it applies to human behavior, when someone falls to temptation, then it also would make everyone else more likely to fall to that temptation. Yes?
Well,
Something to think about.
Is it a first time temptation that nobody has ever fallen to, like
Or-
Adam crunching down the apple? Or
Or
is
it
it
could be
something
from
that
the oldest
people
profession
always
back.
reach that point? Go
It
ahead.
could be the temptation of the oldest profession. I just
Ah,
the propensity to sin increases. So, like, I don't know, maybe we should think about those in our personal struggles against temptation.
Maybe we should take the concept of sin and look at it again, because things like the 7 deadly sins, envy, really envy's a deadly sin? I guess supposedly if you're jealous.
If I envy something bad enough, I'll kill you to take it. So yes.
Yeah, that
yes.
okay. Sloth. If I don't really want to comb my beard out, does that mean that I have committed a sin because I'm slothful?
Well, it's like a
Or do I
calculus.
have to hang upside down on a tree?
It's like a calculus of sin. As you take it toward the limits, it becomes more and more deadly.
Well, you see, there's rules in chemistry and rules in science, and they're very, very much like the rules of religion. And so, you know how rules are. Rules are made to be broken, but creatively.
I'm just trying to make some morphogenetic resonances for other people to make life easier. All right, Doc, I'm gonna wrap up. First, some branding. Remember it.
Griz,
And then,
do you have anything you want to say in conclusion?
Yes, I've noticed recently that when I've gone back to watch the replays of various people's YouTubes, I don't get the chat anymore. So I wanted to go back and read the chat, but was unable to collect it from past video appearances. Do you know a way that when you post the video for good, it still has the chat in it? Or is that a unilateral decision by YouTube to no longer let us communicate that way?
you know, I'm not sure. I understood the process to be that, like, once a live stream finished, it began their processing. And once the processing had finished, you'd be able to see the chat replays. If any of the hive mind is willing to do the investigation, please see what chat replays are available and are not, and I'll make sure if there's a setting I have to fiddle with, I'll be sure and check that out. I do prefer people be able to see the chat replays.
Especially when I'm here and on, I was not following the chats, but I was following the chat enough to make some of my responses, and I don't have a coffee link.
And Doc does not. He doesn't want your damn money, apparently. I do. You can send it to, like, the kofi.com/grimgriz, probably.
Actually, I'd love to have a cup of coffee with anybody who's out there listening, and we can physically arrange to get in the same location and share coffee. That would be awesome.
So he'd actually like to share a coffee, but doesn't want your money for coffee. That you should send to Grimgriz. All right, Doc, thanks for being on today's fancy pants tea time. Even though we're talking coffee stream, with my flow massing, your voiding, and us breaking the minds of everyone around. But I hope everyone felt virtually not alone, like a frog on a screen. Hey, see you, Doc. Anybody else want to say anything? Oh yes, I am. As a special reminder, I have started writing something again over on the Substack. If you're not already subscribed over there, you might miss it. It's gonna be epic, I'm sure. Almost everything I write does. Don't forget to go to the top of the Hive Mind chat while you still can, and subscribe over on Doc's channel to not miss. You know. Bye, embody. Here, and then this one.